Hey, good morning. It's Eric Arnold here for a pretty important political barn episode, politics barn episode here in the wee hours of the morning on Tuesday, the 3rd of May, 2022. Well, something momentous just happened here in the last 6-7 hours, and I thought, well, everyone's going to be talking about this, so let's get out there and talk about it. There's a case pending before the Supreme Court. I believe it's called Mississippi. Now I'm trying to think of Jackson. I think it's Jackson versus Mississippi. And it takes direct aim at Roe v. Wade. Now, unless you've been buried under a rock somewhere for the last 50 years or you're 6, Roe v. Wade is the 1973 Supreme Court decision which established the right to abortion. And since 73, abortion has been basically a right, something that you can do at any point in time, practically anywhere in the country. Some states, some people don't like it and try to restrict it or eliminate it, but pretty much since 1973, law of the land, abortion on demand. So, what has happened here? Well, the court case was heard in December. Oral arguments were heard in December. A decision is due probably sometime in June. Generally, I guess the way the Supreme Court works is they have a session, they hear all the cases they've decided to hear, which is a very small portion of the cases that are referred to them. In other words, 100 cases might be referred to them. They might decide to hear 5. I made that up. I don't know, but I know the percentage is very small. Most cases referred to the Supreme Court, they simply punt on. They just don't take up the case, and then that case is over. But they decided they did want to hear Jackson versus Mississippi, and everyone thought, "Uh-oh, here we go. They're going to take on Roe v. Wade." They didn't decide to hear that case just so they could all say, "Hey, yeah, Roe v. Wade, yep, law of the land, good job." Because the Republicans control the Supreme Court for the most part. You can argue that one way or the other depending on the case, but more justices that have been appointed by Republican presidents are there as opposed to justices appointed by Democrat presidents. How about that? So, that case is pending. Now, based on the oral arguments in December, there was a lot of verbal back and forth between the justices and the attorneys arguing both sides of the case. It led court observers to believe, hey, they're going to overturn this. A lot of these justices, a majority of these justices, are not down with Roe v. Wade. Now this is Roe v. Wade for hardcore leftists, Democrats. That's the Holy Grail. That's their touchstone. That's their thing. Don't touch that. So this has got them very, very nervous. So now what has happened in the last few hours? A draft decision, draft opinion, 98 pages long, has been leaked to Politico. It was written by Justice Samuel Alito. He is definitely one of the conservative justices. It's a majority decision. It is a draft. It was written, I believe, it looks like sometime in February. And 98 pages. Politico is a hardcore leftist online publication. I believe it has some links, if not owned outright by the Washington Post. So Politico publishes this draft opinion. Now this is, to hear the Politico, I read the Politico article. I believe they said this is either highly unusual or just simply unprecedented. In other words, the Supreme Court historically has been very secret, very tight-lipped when they're making their decisions. People guess, people speculate. I think this is a quote from the Politico article, and I'm probably screwing it up, but I think it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg that said, the people that know don't talk, and the people that talk don't know, which is a pretty good quote. So, in other words, things are very secret in there. They don't leak out. People on the Supreme Court disagree pretty vehemently. In other words, you've got people on that court that believe in individual responsibility, individual freedom, and then on the other side, you have people that believe the government should control everything. But there is a team atmosphere on that Supreme Court that even the most opposite of ideologies on that court, they are, for lack of a better word, friends. They get along. They're not thinking of ways to kill each other. So the idea of leaking something to the outside world on a pending case, this just does not happen, has not happened. I believe this, again, someone will probably find an example, but to me, this has not happened before. Unprecedented. So the draft that was leaked looks 100% authentic to me, but what do I know? I mean, it's 98 pages long. That would have to be a really deep fake thing there to write a 98-page decision, trying to sound all the while like Justice Alito. If you're faking that sort of thing, I don't think it's fake. I think it's 100% legitimate. Now, what does the decision say? Well, it totally overturns Roe v. Wade. It flat overturns it completely. Just throws it out and says, nope, it was wrongly decided from the get-go. Roe v. Wade has no basis in law or the Constitution, and we're getting rid of it. And the decision on abortion now goes back to the states. Each individual state will have to decide what they want to do as far as abortion goes. The Mississippi law in question here is valid. Now, what does that mean? What has happened? What does it mean? Is it overturned? Well, no, it's a draft. This is just, at one point in time, this was the thinking of the court. Now, a couple things I think we can glean from what has been leaked. A couple things. One, Alito wrote the decision. To me, that means it's a 5-4 decision. If Chief Justice Roberts was on board with overturning Roe v. Wade, he would have written the decision. But apparently, whatever he was writing didn't suit the other 5 members of the Overturned coalition, and they said, that's not what we're down. No, we're not down with that. If that's the best you can do, then vote against it, or decide to join our concurring majority opinion. But you're not writing that soft ass, well, maybe it should be, this should be changed or that should be changed, but Roe v. Wade is still cool. No, that means to me they have 5 pretty hardcore votes to overturn. But it's not done yet. There's still time before June when the actual decision comes out. And it doesn't mean that there aren't people on that court that could be moved one way or the other. Apparently that happens all the time. That votes get traded, arguments get made, people are convinced one way or the other. And none of this has anything to do with the law. I love doing that because I like taking shots at lawyers, just because they have this opinion of themselves that they are the arbitrators of ethics and truth and justice and the law, and none of this is truest in the slightest. It's all politics. It's all politics. There's nothing in the Constitution that says anything about abortion. Alito's right about that. In 1973, a majority of Supreme Court justices got together and said, you know what, maybe we should allow this. You know, the country seems to be ready for this. They want this. Let's do it. It had nothing to do with the law. Just like overturning it has nothing to do with the law. It's just how a majority of conservative justices are interpreting the Constitution. I would argue it's simply because they perceive a majority of Americans want this overturned. So why was it leaked? I think obviously to energize the Democrat base, pressure the Supreme Court justices. I'm not down with that argument so much. I mean, they're already getting pressure. And you can't tell me that the people that can really bring the pressure don't already know there's a majority of justices looking to overturn this. In other words, it may not leak out to the newspapers. In other words, those that know don't talk. They don't talk to you and I. I think they talk amongst themselves. They talk to the high table. I told you about the high table. There's a high table. You telling me that Joe Biden, Barack Obama don't know the score of how this decision's coming down? They know. They know which justices are going to vote which way, and they know which justices are possibly able to be turned. How do we turn them? You know, that's what they have been thinking about since December. This leak probably was orchestrated. I find it hard to believe that just one Democrat lawyer involved in the Supreme Court would take it upon themselves to just go, I'm going to break protocol and I'm just going to out these people and let the whole world know what's happening. I think this was orchestrated. This was permitted. This was green-lighted by the high table to get the Democrat base energized, fired up. Now, if the decision comes down the way it is now, the way the decision was written, what does it mean? Well, like I said, overturns Roe v. Wade entirely. It stops short, however, of outlawing abortion everywhere. Apparently, there were ways this decision could have been written that could have been worse for the hardcore left Democrats. There's a legal theory, I believe, called fetal personhood, where a fetus is basically given the rights of a person, the legal rights of a person, where then the court would say that fetus has rights and you cannot trample upon his or her rights. That fetus has rights. And that means you, California, New York, Illinois, the bluest of the blue states, you cannot trample upon that fetus's rights. As a country, therefore, we are outlawing abortion. Doesn't say that. It stops short of that. So what that means is then your hardcore Democrat states, abortion will still be totally legal. Entirely. It's up to each state legislature and the governor of each state as to whether they want to allow abortion. So right now, I believe I read there are 22 states that have laws outlawing abortion in some fashion. Whether some of these laws are holdovers from pre-1973, but they were just never taken off the books. And then others are going to have enacted new laws. Frankly, I think 22 states, that number will go up. In other words, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, I think you're going to see other states that have no laws are going to pass laws limiting abortion rights. I think that will happen. Let's see what else. All right, now here, I've seen a lot of Republicans gnashing their teeth over this, saying, oh my God, we're going to die, we're going to get killed, we're not going to be able to win in November. This is terrible. This is awful. I wish this would have happened some other time. Will this help Democrats in the upcoming elections? No. That's my short answer. No. Here's why I think this. Now, apparently, I looked this up. Abortion is not a burning issue with me. It's just not, just doesn't affect me, So I'm not a woman. Can I say that, YouTube? I am not a woman. I'm not going to be forced to carry a child to term against my wishes. So that'll never happen to me. It maybe not front and center in my consciousness, but I looked up other countries on Wikipedia, so this is as accurate as Wikipedia, and the best I could figure, the number of countries, and I wrote them down. They're a pretty short list that basically have no restrictions on abortion: Canada, China, Mexico. Oddly enough, Mexico is becoming more pro-abortion. Strangely enough, according to what I read. South Korea. So that's it. Canada, China, Mexico, South Korea. England that one was confusing to me. I got the impression there were some restrictions of some type. But at any rate, and the United States. So there you have it. Gallup. You all familiar with what Gallup is? Gallup is a polling organization. It's been around probably for 70, 80 years. Gallup does a poll every year, it looks like. It looks like they do it around this time every year, which oddly enough, that may be a link to why this was leaked now. In other words, for whatever reason, Gallup does their abortion poll over a 2-week period in May. Every year. They've been doing this every year since 1973. There's 3 categories. They asked the people, do you want it to be totally legal? Abortion. Do you want it to be totally legal? Legal under certain circumstances Now that I imagine would be your standard health of the mother, your rape, incest, that type of deal. And then totally illegal. Now, the last time they did this poll was in 21, almost a year ago. As I said, they're just about to do this poll again, which I think might have a link as to why this thing was dumped out there now. 32% want totally legal, no restrictions. That kid's just about ready to pop, and you decide, I don't want him. You can kill him. You can end that kid just like that. 48% under certain circumstances legal, and then 19% totally illegal, no exceptions. Now those numbers are done every year, and that goes back to 73. This number here, the numbers fluctuate, but not that much. The totally legal number, that's around a historic high. It's been as high as 34%. I think back in the early 90s, it was upwards of 33, 34%. It's been as low as 21%. It fluctuates between the low 20s and the low 30s. But it's never been above, I believe, 34. So, at most, you have 1/3 of Americans are absolutely, I'm okay with ending a kid, no matter how well along he is, how developed he is, 7th month, 8th month, 9th month, about to be born, good with that, okay. And then you have 48%, and that's where I am. I'm here. I'm in the legal under certain circumstances. Frankly, I'm okay with the Mississippi law as written, which is it's illegal after 15 weeks. I'm okay with that, frankly. I think that covers the bases for me. So you still have your choice. You got up to 15 weeks to make your choice. But after that, I think that kid has some rights. I really do. And I think a society that has nothing to say when potential humans are being killed, I don't think that's a good society. And I'm not okay with that sort of thing. I think there should be limits. I really do. Does that fly in the face of my libertarianism? I don't know. Maybe. That's just what I believe. That there should be some restrictions here. That at a certain point, that kid has rights. And especially now as we go further along and our medical procedures become more and more advanced, what are the excuses for killing that kid? Well, I don't want him. I don't have enough money. I can't support him. There are all kind of laws, I think, on the books that the kid's not going to get dumped in a trash can. Somebody's going to take care of that kid until the kid gets adopted. He's not going to end up in a government salt mine or something. So I don't know. The exceptions, the rape, the incest, the health of the mother, these are complicated issues. And I think they're best handled on a case-by-case basis. I think the law probably should provide for some leeway there in these special circumstances. I know this is a touchy subject that a lot of people, a loud minority of people, how about that? This is their right, and my God, if you think otherwise, you're a monster. There's a flip side to that coin. I think if you're okay, 86 and an 8-month fetus, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot to say for you. I think that's just flat immoral. Were you going to die during delivery? No. Then why did you want that kid dead? That kid had a life. He was going to have a life, and you took it from him. I don't know. That just kind of, I don't think that's a moral decision. But then again, I think the way the decision's coming down here is okay. In other words, we're not totally legislating morality. We are in some places where there's a majority of people that think like I do. But in other places, if you all want to get together and kill your kids, like California, you can do that. You can do that. But back to my point of why this is not going to be a winner of a political argument for the Democrats, I think this is your key number. 32. That's 1/3. That means it's basically a 2-to-1 majority, and you can't get a 2-to-1 majority on damn near anything in this country. Anything. Whether I like chocolate ice cream or I like the beach. I don't know you could get that kind of a majority on anything. But 2-to-1, people are against abortion on demand. So, the left is going to scream bloody murder over this like, with their typical overheated rhetoric that the Supreme Court is now issuing in Nazism, and we're going to gas all the Democrats in ovens or some damn thing, which is ridiculous. But, that's what they're going to say. Plus, the left will do what they always do. They always go too far. They'll take their rhetoric and make it about as ridiculous as the example I just gave you. And normal people are going to sit there and go, well, I didn't really care about this issue too much one way or the other, but They're not convincing me. In fact, they look ridiculous. They're hysterical. They're absolutely hysterical. 2-1, 2-1. So, the Democrats are going to try to make you think that there's a majority of people that approve of abortion on demand. It's not true. It's simply not true. However, it wouldn't surprise me if the next Gallup poll comes out and this number suddenly jumps way above historical norms. Like I said, they run this poll every year. They're going to come out with it again in 2-3 weeks. Watch out for that. Just warning you. Watch out for that Cook poll where, suddenly that number is at 45 or 50, which, of course, I would argue is not true. That suddenly, now 10-20% of the people that said, I don't know about this abortion, suddenly are like, yep, I think it's okay to kill that kid at 8 months. The point I always thought to myself, and really it was the racial arguments that have been front and center over the past 2-3 years or so. I think back to the Civil War days or pre-Civil War, and I say, why were well-educated, intelligent people back then, a minority of them, but a sizable part of this country, were okay with slavery? They had no problem with it whatsoever. That they thought, man, it's all right if that guy doesn't exactly look like you, or maybe he's obviously a different race. We're okay with putting that guy in chains and making him work from dusk to dawn and dawn to dusk, and we're all right with that. He has no rights. We're okay with that. I just like, how does this happen? What was the blind spot there for all these? A lot of them were well-educated men of their times, but they were okay with slavery. How did that happen? And I kind of think to myself, when someone looks back at this time from, say, 150, 200 years down the road, what are they going to say of this era and say, that was wrong? Those people were absolutely 100% wrong. That's an abomination. That should have never been allowed. Abortion, that's what I would keep coming back to. I don't think history is going to be kind to Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, the Clintons, the head of the Democrat Party for the past whatever many years that have been pushing abortion as one of their primary issues. I don't think history is going to be kind at all to those people, at all. Much like the Southerners of the Civil War era. So I just think, to me, it's just not, it's wrong. It's wrong. I don't approve of it. I do approve of the decision as it's coming down. I think it's good. Hey, you guys want to get together in California and kill babies? Knock yourselves out. It's not one of my burning issues where I think we need to have again, it's tough to legislate morality. So, should we have a nationwide law? I think what would be better is if people's opinions and morals just changed a little bit and just said, why did I have to kill that baby? I could have just taken it to term and put it up for adoption. But that in a lot of areas now, that's just simply not a thought. It's just, I don't need this kid. This is certainly an issue I do not need at the moment. Well, we'll solve that real fast, and that's that. So I don't agree with it, but so that's where I'm at with this issue. I don't think it's going. I think it's a good decision. If that's the way it comes down, it may not come down like that. There's possibly some weak hands. Barrett, Kavanaugh, they've been shown to be weak on these kind of issues where there's a lot of attention. The vaccinations, they wobbled on those. That was, they were 100% where they wobbled there, were 100% wrong. And so this is another one where it's possible that they're swayed and come off and the decision doesn't happen and it's not overturned. Yeah, unknown. You don't know this yet. I would just wonder, though, the fact that there's going to be mass rioting, metaphorically. I don't really expect there to be mass rioting over this. But, how are they going to sway the people in the streets? I don't think are going to sway Kavanaugh and Barrett. There might be some targeted arm twisting behind the scenes. That may have already happened. And this leak may be simply to let the people in the street think they had something to do with a different decision coming out. And in other words, what's the point of parading through the streets threatening to do X, Y, and Z if you don't have any, it doesn't matter. You didn't have any result. Weren't able to convince anyone to change their minds. So, that may have already happened. This is a draft from 2 months ago. There might be another draft that wasn't leaked where they've already decided that they're not overturning the damn law. So that may have already happened. So you just can't tell what's going to happen yet. This means, it doesn't mean nothing. It's information, and information always helps, I think. Information always gives you insight. There's sometimes it's trying to push you in a certain way that may be not the way of the light or truth. Some would call that disinformation. So, and the government's all over that right now, aren't they? They've got their own disinformation officer out there now. So we should have a whole episode on that. But anyway, very important issue that exploded into the public discourse just a few hours ago. So I thought we should have an episode about that. But good, that's all I have to say about that, because right now there's nothing else to say about it. Nothing else is going to happen until the actual decision comes out. So you all just have to wait. Good, thanks for being here. We appreciate you, all you political junkies that take time to watch this channel. And we'll talk again at some point in the near future. Eric Arnold signing off.